So I started with FFL a number of years back. We were all at another organization, and it was in the midst of a recession, and I was just trying to reinvent myself, looking for a job. And I had been in life insurance already, and I spent a year at this one company and didn't make any money. I left the industry. I was very frustrated, and very skeptical. So got a call from a recruiter on, I think it was Monster.com back then, about 10 years ago. It says, come to our office for an interview. I was like, all right, where is it? Some Rancho Cucamonga. Okay, so I put on my best suit, tie. I think I even put on a vest. I could fit in a vest back then. And I was supposed to have an interview with this guy named Andrew, right? So I show up, I'm looking for Andrew, there's no Andrew. There's a room, and there's like 5 people in the room, 6 of us, and I just sit around and go, make yourself comfortable, have a seat. And they're having like a little meeting, and everybody had like clappers. You know what clappers are? Like, woohoo, clappers. I was like, what the heck is this? It's supposed to be an interview with some guy named Andrew. So I was kind of frustrated. Andrew walks in late. He's wearing a pair of like Ray-Bans, like a Kmart suit or something. Little teenage guy, looked like Miami Vice, like a white jacket or something. Didn't even say hi. And then at the very end of the meeting, Paul comes up to me and goes, and I'm the only one wearing a suit, right? Because I'm in an interview, right, of course. He goes, hey, you're a really sharp guy. I like your tie. We should get more guys like you. I was like, oh, thanks, Paul. And that's how I got here. So it's interesting to see how the opportunity has grown. I didn't even know this room existed. We used to do meetings here, at the club, but it was all the way in the back of the little room back there. And this is stepping on up. This has windows. That one had no windows, just a trap door, one way in and one way out. And there was like 5 of us again. So needless to say, the opportunity has grown a lot. So I'm here to talk to you today about persistence in your business, in your life, in this opportunity. And that's something that's, hard to gain, and it's hard to keep, kind of like momentum. And that's the thing that really I needed, because I was skeptical, like I said, to say the least. I was definitely not the exemplary agent. I would doubt everything. I was like, what kind of leads? I walk in and be like, what kind of leads are these? Go into a doubt. What did you give me here? I was like, always doubting Thomas, And then I'd literally and then Paul would say, here, give them here. I'm like, what? Your leads. I'm like, oh, okay. I give Paul my leads, and he started dialing. He started booking another one, booking another. I was like, okay, I get it. So I had to learn really quick that it wasn't about the leads. It was about me and my frame of mind, And for me, it wasn't a quick process. It was a slow process. But I think that's the thing that really is important, that you build sustainability and persistence. One thing I did have was the faith in all the other people, because I couldn't do it yet. But, social media was not what it is today, thanks to people like Trey, put this whole thing together, the Facebook group. First time he said Facebook, I was like, what? You want me to do what? But now, look at our private group. We have like over 33,000 members of it and growing, It's really engaging the country. So I think the first thing for me is to get a scope of the opportunity. What is it about? What is the earning potential? Are people smiling? Do they like their job? Are they busy? Are they rewarded in what they do? And that's something that we're finding out, daily here at Family First Life, that people from all over the country, from all walks of life, are sharing the same positivity, and they're very transparent about it. I worked at other companies before, in corporate, also in insurance, when I literally couldn't get any information out of some of the top producers because they were keeping it all to themselves. And here we have webinars, podcasts, meetings like this where you can get third-party verification about what it means to go and serve families. And that's what made a big difference to me, knowing that other people was doing it. So I made that, as all of us should, I believe, the building blocks of my business. I would get on all the calls, and I'd participate in the webinars and get on the Zoom dial days, because those resources are there for us, and they're free. At another organization where I joined up, they would charge you for everything. You know what I mean? And then you'd have to go to meetings and pay for the ticket and this and that. And it's like, oh my, it's a little bit overboard. And now we're able to connect the country, even virtually. So it's so exciting to see that growth. So for me, again, I had to see it to believe it. And once I saw it, I believed it, but then I still didn't have it for myself. I'd go out and I'd get like, I'd make maybe one sale, 2 sales, and I get knocked around a lot. And then I reevaluated the situation. I was like, hey, I need to be all in or not at all. And I knew I lacked the experience and the ability to get in front of people. Like, I couldn't book calls like Paul and Andrew and other people and like Troy. I couldn't do that. So I needed to like set myself up for success. So for me, immediate accountability came when I started making larger lead purchases. That was it. Because I knew myself. The only thing that was going to get me, I'm the kind of guy that when my kid doesn't need his food, I'm like, okay, give it here. I don't want it to go to waste. So if I spend $1,000, $2,000 on leads, somebody's going to work. You know what I mean? And that was the first thing that did it for me. The second thing that was really important was that I started realizing that we're really helping people. Really. Because at first, there's that human, that sense of community and giving back and protecting families, and that's so important. That meant nothing to me, honestly, because I couldn't even pay my bills. You know what I mean? And here I was, going back into 1099 again. My wife says, "You crazy? What are you doing?" And I was like, "Look, I got to make this happen." So the first thing was like, "Can I get paid?" And I wasn't even sure if I could do that. So then, slowly but surely, I started realizing that these people really do need it, and they did request it. Here's how it happened. I would waste a lot of time on dial days. Nowadays, you can use phone burner. It keeps you accountable, and it keeps calling for you, and that's fantastic. But I would sit there and look at a lead, and try to like stall out and wash the dishes and go to the bathroom 5 times. But I'd look at the lead, I'd be like, this part in this city, this person. And I would literally get on the phone with people, and like at my own sweet time, I'd pick up the phone and start calling people, and then I get into a groove, and then I start writing, like taking little doodles, like doodly things. And I was like, oh, that guy was a real jerk, and I put a real sad face, And then I was, oh, that guy was really nice, and I put a little smiley face, and I realized in time that I was sitting down with a lot of people with sad faces. No, they didn't have sad face. They had a sad face on the piece of paper. You know what I mean? It's like they weren't nice to me on the phone. They weren't nice to me on the phone. But I started learning how to deal with, I'm not interested. Call me back later. You're the 5th person that called me. I took care of it already. Once I started figuring out how to incrementally, get around that and get the appointment, then I was like, I would sit down with them. And once I sat down with them, I realized they all just have sad faces anyway. These people, and then I'd look back at my business a year or two later, and because I would do everything on paper, right? And I look back a year or two later, and the clients that stuck with me, a majority had sad faces. And they still have sad faces to this day. No, I'm just kidding. So it was very important for me to understand it was a numbers game. And just because they didn't like me on the phone, or they didn't like me, they didn't know me on the phone, didn't mean they didn't need the protection. And it didn't mean there was no way to sit down with them. Because at first I was thinking, there's no way that I can help you. Like, hey, call me back later. Sure, what time? You try to get a hold of them, you'll never find them again, right? I'm not interested. Oh, and then I'd come up with a good, I try to think of something. I'd be like, oh, is it because you already took care of it? And they're like, yeah. I'd be giving myself the kick in the boot, and it just didn't work. So I started becoming very duplicatable. I think that's something that's very important. Once you understand the scope of the opportunity, just don't try to reinvent the wheel. Just be as duplicatable as the next person. It's all open book test. You could use it and reuse it and reuse it. So I'd walk into a dial team, right, and hear like 5 different rooms at Paul's house. Everyone say, perfect, perfect. You meet them where they're at, perfect. Because if somebody says, can you mail it? You can't say no, right? Because they'll shut you down immediately. Like, you're contradicting me. Talk to the hand, right? You know what I mean? So you have to meet them where they're at. So these are the little things I learned along the way. And as I was able to start booking appointments with people incrementally, I'd be like, oh, that's one I couldn't do 2 weeks ago when somebody said I wasn't interested. I didn't know what to say, but now I know what to say. And I literally booked that one. And I gave that person a smiley face, and it started working. So another thing that really occurred to me, is along the way, if you keep that activity level up, you're going to meet so many interesting people, and a lot of them, in the end, thank you. When you're done servicing them, like, thank you for being so persistent. I know I was being a jerk on the phone, and it evolves into something. And these are the things I keep close to my heart. Not all the rejection, not all the no's, not all the running around, but just how many people I'm able to help. And then it did, move into something that was well beyond just getting paid in money, So I'll give you an example. Back in the day, we had one lead vendor, and the lead house burnt to the ground. So there was no leads, So we were working on 2-3-year-old leads for a long time. And I started taking road trips. Not nowadays you got leads everywhere, all these internet leads and final expense leads, but before it was like we literally had nothing. So I started taking road trips, 3 hours away, 4 hours away, et cetera, like many of you are doing. And I wasn't quite good at setting up my schedule yet, so I'd spread it out into 3-4 days, and I'd have like 5 appointments a day. And of course, what do you think happened? I get no-showed 3, 4, 5 times, or people call me to reschedule. So here I am out there in the middle of nowhere, and it's hot, it's summertime, but I was like, look, I have to motivate. So instead of going to Starbucks, I went door knocking. And one house really resounded with me. I went there, I was like, knock, 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 and she comes to the door, and it's one of those two-way things. I mean, one-way thing. They can see you, but they can't, I couldn't see her, right? And she's like, nobody home, come back later. I was like, oh, okay, nobody home. I was like, oh, darn, I forgot to get her phone number. So I went back that evening, because I had that many holes in my schedule. I was like, hey, Dr. She goes, no, he's not home. I was like, oh, are you the wife? Oh, yeah. So I was like, and I tried to, I was like, can I give you my business card? And, let's set up an appointment. She's like, yeah, give me your business card. I was like, how? And she wouldn't open the door. I was like, I was like, can you open the door? I'd like to give it to you. No, I can't do that. So finally I said, okay, I'm just going to leave it right here. And I said, well, walk backwards. Like, I don't want to get shot or anything. So then this lady, she wouldn't do it. And then finally I went back to a third time. And this time she's like, fine, just meet me at Starbucks tomorrow at 3 o'clock. I'm like, which one? And then she shut the door. I was like, damn, which one? And I still didn't get the phone number. I was like, what the, damn, shoot myself. So here I am the next day going to Starbucks. And I still didn't have a phone number if she wanted, no-show me. And surprisingly enough, her and her husband were there at the Starbucks. And I was like, whoa, I got to see him, and it was all, live and in person. I was like so excited. I was like, you want a cup of coffee? And then we ended up helping her and her husband with protection. And that was really meaningful. And they're like, at the end, they really liked me. And they're like, you know what? We asked the questions, like, oh, yeah, we have other things in place to protect each other, like 401ks. I was like, oh, yeah? and it turned out it was like some really big, situation where, it was lots of AP and a really big 401k, and then there was another 401k, and there was another 401k. And these people turned out to be really good friends. And now we talk to each other all the time. And every year we talk statements and stuff like that. And they still send me referrals. And I was like, yes, these people really need it. It's just you have to go the extra mile to make it happen. It's just not going to fall in your lap. Like I said, I don't know you. Yeah, in the middle of the night I was worried about dying, the neighbor passed away or something like that, and I clicked on a link or something like that, but I don't know you. Was I expecting a call from you? No. Was I expecting you to come over my house? Certainly not, right? So you have to have that ability to posture yourself and get in there anyway, because I know for myself that I know they need it. I had so many situations like that just keep evolving over the years. I had another couple. They were like in their late 70s, and they were very fearful of not having a place to live if one of them should pass away. And that was a very realistic fear for them. And life insurance was getting prohibitively expensive, and their health was shot, literally. So somehow, I went and, like Andrew said, with the Armenian coffee and stuff, and then they started serving me and give me desserts and everything. And I was like, man, they really like me. This is going to go well. And then slowly but surely, as I started figuring out their health and I started showing them programs, they started getting frustrated because oh, well, you can't cover me. And oh, you're not going to do that for me. And they started getting really agitated. And they were just about to kick me out. And then somehow the conversation went somewhere else. Make a long story short, I figured out they both had these policies that they've been paying $1,000 each into for like 30 years. And they had a cash value like the size of this roof. And they didn't know it. And they wouldn't divulge it to me. And finally, I started feeling there's something going on here. There's something here. And I just wouldn't leave. And they wanted me to leave. And I started clearing away the free Armenian tea. It was like, time for you to go. And finally I found out, and I spent the next 4 hours on the phone with the carrier that we don't represent. Okay, and I was able to figure out, hey, you got enough money in here to not just pay for your house, but stop paying for this, and that'll pay for your mortgage and all that. And they were so grateful. And I didn't make a penny. But these kind of experiences have really enriched me, and it made me understand the value of it. So how deep do you deep? I mean, how deep do you dig? It's really important. It's really important because I tell you, I had this one family not too long ago, and it turns out she wanted a CBO. I was like, happy day, $250. It was like the easiest thing ever. I was like, this is going to be a laydown. And I was like, already in my mind, I was like, calculating times 12. You know, and then she's like, hey, can you help my mom up? I was like, yeah, let's help your mom out. Where's your mom? She's right here. So I went to the other room and helped her mom up, finally spends $300 a month. I was like, hoo-hoo, you know, and I didn't even bother asking. What's behind all this? What's going on in your mind? What are you feeling right now? What's going on? What are you experiencing? And then I was like, hey, let's go. I was like, hey. And I started packing my bag. It was all approved on the spot, America. I was excited as could be. I was like, you guys are great, man. I want to, it's great working with people like you. She's like, yeah, because my sister just died. I was like, oh, shit. And I was like, yeah, because my sister just died, and that's why my mom is here, because she was the one that had the brains to get life insurance. I did, and that's something, and that's why we got this new house here, and that's why Mom was living here. I said, oh, I'm so sorry. And I felt so bad, like I didn't even take the time to ask. And then I was like, all remorseful. I was like, man, I really need to do my job too well. And I started, getting ready to leave. She's like, yeah, and my fiance just passed away last week, suddenly. I was like, oh man, I really didn't take the time to ask, And I understood now, it's just, because I was never that guy. Some people are like, hey, what if you don't come home tomorrow? I was like, I was never that guy. I'm like Mr. Guy Smiley. I have a lot of appointments. I go in and close people that want to close. If they don't, fine. But then I realized, hey, there's a lot of people that need that human connection. And if you can make that human connection, you'll have a client for life. And that'll build the persistency that you need to go forward. So everyone, make it a good one. Thanks so much.